All right, so are you ready for this deep dive?
Definitely.
Because we're going to tackle a question that I think a lot of people have had swirling around in their heads for a while now.
Okay.
And that is, why does the press seemingly give Trump a pass for misogynistic behavior?
Yeah.
We've gotten a ton of news reports from you about his recent rallies and public reaction and media reaction.
Right.
And we really wanted to go through that and see if we can make sense of this.
Yeah, this is a question with a lot of different layers, and it really gets to the heart of, you know,
Yeah.
how we view power dynamics and gender in the political arena.
Well, and speaking of getting to the heart of it,
Yeah.
I think we should just jump right into it.
Yeah.
One of the things you flagged was a Trump rally in Milwaukee
Right.
and that whole microphone fiasco.
Yes, that was interesting.
What did you see there?
Well, on the surface, it seemed like a simple technical difficulty, you know?
Right.
Trump was clearly frustrated with the microphone,
Mhm.
struggling to get it to work, but it was his reaction that was particularly telling.
Okay.
The gestures he made,
Yeah.
some interpreted as sexually suggestive,
Right.
and that language about wanting to knock the hell out of people backstage, you know?
Yeah.
It goes beyond just being annoyed.
It felt very deliberate.
Yeah.
Like he was using that malfunctioning microphone as a proc in a performance.
Right.
Almost.
Yeah, and the crowd ate it up.
They did.
That's a key observation.
Yeah.
It's almost as if he knows how to weaponize these moments,
Uh-huh.
turning a technical glitch into an opportunity to project an image of aggression and dominance.
Right.
You know, it plays right into that
Mhm.
persona he's cultivated over the years.
Okay, so we have the microphone incident, and then there's that Greensboro rally where there's a member of the crowd who shouts that Kamala Harris worked on a corner,
Yeah.
which is pretty blatant insinuation that she was a prostitute.
Right.
And Trump just laughs.
Yeah, and it's not an isolated incident. Remember the nasty woman comment directed at Hillary Clinton during the 2016 debates?
Of
Or
course.
the countless times he's reduced female opponents to their physical attributes or mocked their appearance? This is a pattern of behavior that extends throughout his career, both in and out of politics.
So we see these incidents, and they're pretty shocking, I think, on their own. But as you said, they fit into a larger pattern.
Right.
It's hard to ignore.
Yeah.
And this brings us back to that central question.
Right.
Why does the press, which is supposed to hold those in power accountable, seem to let this slide?
And that's where the conversation gets really interesting.
Okay.
Because there are several potential explanations,
Okay.
each with its own complexities.
Uh-huh.
Some argue that it's a matter of the press being desensitized.
Okay.
Trump has been flouting norms and pushing boundaries for so long that perhaps his behavior, even when blatantly misogynistic,
Right.
just doesn't shock like it used to.
It's like the boy who cried wolf, but with sexism. We've become so accustomed to his outrageous comments that we've just lost the ability to be truly outraged.
Yeah.
But is that all there is to it, or are there other factors at play?
I think desensitization is definitely part of it,
All right.
but there's more to the story.
Really?
Another possible explanation is that the media is afraid of alienating Trump's base.
Okay.
He's been very successful at cultivating this us versus them mentality, portraying himself as a victim of the liberal media and anyone who criticizes him as an enemy.
Right.
So there's this fear that if the press condemns his misogyny too forcefully,
Uh-huh.
they'll be accused of bias and further fuel that narrative.
So it's like they're trying to walk this delicate balancing act.
Right.
They want to report on his behavior accurately, but they're also wary of being seen as taking sides.
Yeah.
Or giving him ammunition to use against them.
Exact.
But isn't there a danger in that?
Yeah.
If the media is constantly walking on eggshells, aren't they implicitly condoning his behavior
Yeah.
by not speaking out more forcefully against it?
Absolutely. And that's where we get into the broader issue of media bias.
Okay.
Not just in relation to Trump, but in how we cover powerful men in general.
Okay.
There's a long history of the press being more deferential to men in positions of authority, particularly when it comes to issues of gender and sexuality.
Okay.
Think about how often, female politicians
Right.
are scrutinized for their appearance,
Oh, yeah.
their tone of voice, their likability.
Oh, boy.
These same standards are very rarely applied to men.
It's so true. And
Yeah.
and it's like there's this unspoken rule that women in politics have to be everything.
Yeah.
Brilliant, tough, compassionate, likable, but also conform to these very, very narrow expectations of how they should look and how they should behave.
Yeah.
It's exhausting just thinking about it.
Exactly. And it creates this double standard that makes it harder for women to succeed in politics. When a man makes a sexist remark, you know, it's often dismissed as locker room talk or boys will be boys.
Yeah.
But when a woman speaks out against sexism, she's labeled as shrill or oversensitive.
So in a way, Trump's behavior and the media's response to it are just symptoms of this much larger problem.
Yeah.
It's about the way we as a society view gender and power.
Right.
And if we don't address that underlying problem, we're just going to keep seeing these same patterns play out over and over again.
I think that's a crucial point.
Yeah.
This is not just about Trump. It's about the systems that allow this kind of behavior to flourish.
Okay.
And that brings us to another possible explanation for why the press seems to give him a pass.
Okay.
They're playing his game.
What do you mean?
Trump is a master of manipulating the media.
Okay.
He understands that outrageous behavior generates headlines, and he's willing to push the boundaries of what's considered acceptable. Right.
In order to stay in the spotlight.
Okay.
And by constantly covering his antics, even if it's to criticize him, the media is inadvertently amplifying his message and normalizing his behavior.
It's like they can't resist the spectacle. He throws a tantrum. Makes a sexist remark, and everybody rushes to report on it.
Yeah.
Giving him exactly what he wants. Attention.
Yeah. So are you saying that the media is actually complicit in perpetuating his misogyny?
I wouldn't say complicit, but they are certainly playing a role.
Okay.
It's a difficult situation because you can't just ignore someone like Trump.
No.
But by giving him so much attention, the media also risks normalizing his behavior and making it seem less egregious.
It's a catch-22.
Right.
If they ignore him, they're accused of censorship.
Yeah.
If they cover him, they're accused of giving him a platform.
Exactly.
So what's the solution? How do we break this cycle?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
There's no easy answer, but I think it starts with awareness. We need to be more critical consumers of media, recognizing the ways in which coverage can perpetuate harmful stereotypes and power imbalances.
So being more mindful of how these incidents are framed,
Right.
what language is used and whose voices are amplified or silenced.
Exactly.
It's about reading between the lines
Yeah.
and not just taking things at face value.
Yeah, we also need to hold the media accountable.
Yep.
If we see a pattern of, you know, downplaying or normalizing misogynistic behavior, we need to call it out.
Right.
Write letters to the editor, engage in thoughtful discussions online, support media outlets that are doing a good job of covering these issues.
So it's about using our voices to demand better coverage.
Exactly.
What about on a more personal level?
Yeah.
What can we do in our everyday lives
Yeah.
to challenge these norms and create a culture where misogyny is no longer tolerated?
I think it starts with how we talk about women.
Okay.
Are we using language that reinforces stereotypes? Are we challenging sexist jokes or comments when we hear them?
Okay.
It's about being an active bystander and not letting these things slide.
It's so easy to just stay silent, especially when it's uncomfortable to speak up.
Right.
But silence is often interpreted as agreement.
Yeah.
We need to make it clear that this behavior is not okay.
And it's not just about calling out bad behavior.
Yep.
It's also about celebrating and supporting women
Uh-huh.
who are breaking down barriers and challenging the status quo,
Okay.
amplifying their voices,
Uh-huh.
sharing their stories, and creating a more inclusive and equitable world.
It's about changing the narrative.
Right.
And this brings me back to something you said earlier about Trump playing the media's game.
Yeah.
What if we stopped playing?
Okay.
What if we stopped giving him the attention he craves every time he does something outrageous?
That's an interesting thought.
Yeah.
What if instead of focusing on his every tweet and tantrum, we shifted the conversation to the issues that really matter?
Right. What if we focused on the policies that are impacting people's lives, the solutions that are being proposed, and the voices that are often marginalized?
It's about reclaiming the narrative
Right.
and deciding what we want to amplify.
Exactly.
It's about focusing on substance over spectacle.
And it's about recognizing that we have more power than we realize.
Okay.
As consumers of media, as citizens, as individuals, we have a choice in how we engage with the world.
Okay.
We can choose to perpetuate the status quo, or we can choose to demand better.
Wow. That's a powerful message.
Yeah.
It's so easy to feel helpless in the face of these huge societal problems.
Right.
But you're right. We do have a choice.
We do.
We can choose to be part of the solution.
Absolutely.
This has been such an eye-opening conversation. I feel like I have a much better understanding of the complexities surrounding this issue.
Yeah.
And I'm definitely feeling inspired to do my part to create a more just and equitable world.
I'm glad to hear that. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
I hope our listeners are feeling as inspired as I am to keep questioning, keep challenging, and keep pushing for a better future.
It's a fight worth having.
And to all our listeners out there, thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Keep those brains buzzing. Stay curious, and we'll catch you on the next one.